Hello everybody, it's Josie here. I am going to be doing another one of my 2 book reviews. Today's 2 books are by the same author, which is quite handy. Not planned at all. And that author is Julianne Peters. So Julianne Peters is an Own Voices queer author. So these are both queer YA books, and they focus on relationships. So I would call these kind of YA relationship, I want to say romance, but kind of romance books. But what I liked about these, so the 2 books I'm talking about, let's start here, is Lies My Girlfriend Told Me by Julianne Peters and Far From Xanadu, let me hold that up properly, Far From Xanadu by Julianne Peters. So what attracted me to these books is they're both kind of, I would say, again, on the slightly darker side of romance. So these are not the happy-go-lucky, fluffy kind of romance type of books. Particularly Far From Xanadu, what I liked about this and what I wanted to read about in this book was that it's about unrequited love very much. So it is about your main character, Mike, who is in love with this girl, Xanadu, and they're friends, but, you know, Mike would really like more than that with her. But it is very much sort of unrequited. So I kind of like that because you don't normally, particularly with YA books, I think romances or just romance books in general, they're always kind of set up to be, you know, girl gets girl in the end or boy gets girl in the end or whatever it is. It's kind of set up to be more of a happy ending, where Far From Xanadu, the premise is not set up to be that. I really enjoyed this. What I enjoyed about this book was that your protagonist, Mike, is very much, how to say this, I suppose quite kind of like a butch lesbian. It's a terrible way of putting it, but she's very tomboyish. She wears, you know, quite masculine clothing. She's definitely not a femme. You know, she likes working on her car. She's into sports. She's very much, I suppose, what you would kind of stereotypically in the Midwest think of as a kind of slightly butcher lesbian. And that's quite nice to have that kind of viewpoint, because you don't usually see that actually that much. And it's, what I also like about this is the strife in the novel is not about her being gay, about her coming out. That's okay. Her classmates all kind of, everybody, the community knows about it, and that's not a problem. There is a very, very sad backstory with her father, who you find out right in the beginning he is dead, and then you find out throughout the book the backstory to that, and about her mother, who's really struggling to deal with grief, and about Mike herself, who is struggling to deal with grief. So this book is kind of multi-layered in the sense that it's very hard-hitting in terms of grief, in terms of trauma, in terms of what happens to families. And then you have this other element of, you know, falling in love with your friend, falling in love with someone who maybe you shouldn't have fallen in love with, and that being unrequited. There is something in this book. Oh, okay, I can't. You know, you want to say something, you're like, no, if I say it, I'm going to spoil it. I don't like Xanadu. Anyway, so yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. This was a 4-star read for me. Really good book. As was this one, Lies My Girlfriend Told Me. This was also a 4-star book for me. So right off the bat, I think that's a cool cover. I think that girl looks a bit like Cara Delevingne for some reason. But anyway, so this one is, oh, I forgot what the main character's name is. That's really bad. Alex. Yeah. So Alex, spelled A-L-I-X, is, in the beginning of the book, you find out that her girlfriend has died. Her girlfriend used to be a runner. She was running along the track in the morning, and she literally collapsed and died of a cardiac arrest. So that's kind of where the book starts. So her girlfriend, whose name's Swanee, and then you find out that, so she goes over to see Swanee's parents, and she goes into Swanee's room and she looks at her stuff, and among the things that are on her bed is her bag that she was kind of, all the stuff that she was taken in with to the hospital when she died, and her cell phone is in there, her mobile's in there, and she picks that up and she sees these texts from a girl called Leanne, and, you know, she's like, oh, what's this? And then you kind of go into what's going on, sort of the secrets and the lies that people keep. You know, who was Swanee? Was she, you know, was she representing herself truthfully to Alex? What was going on? And there is also a romance off the back of this. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was a quick read. It had sort of these elements, the same as Far From Xanadu, in terms of kind of dealing with grief, dealing with loss. And then also that element of you're dealing with grief and loss, but then you also find out that the person that you're grieving for wasn't necessarily the person you thought they were. So, you know, how do you deal with that? Where do you go from there? There's a storyline with Swanee's sister Joss, her younger sister, and she's really struggling to cope with Swanee's death. And there's an element of people trying to help her get through that. It's interesting. I think it's multi-layered in that sense. I enjoyed reading it. Sounds, you know, it was quite dark to read. There is a lovely light spot with the romance in here, female romance. So it goes without saying that so Alex is openly gay. Again, being gay is not the strife in this book at all. It's not even like coming out is not a thing in either of these books, which I quite like. Not quite like, I really like. So was Swanee. She was openly gay as well. So, you know, that's not the issue. The issue is around, you know, how truthful are people being with you, and do you really know somebody? And how do you deal with that once they're gone? I really like these books. Like I said, they're both solid 4-star reads for me. Definitely recommend as YA, kind of harder hitting contemporaries. These two are excellent. I've actually got, and I realized this, I'm going to move that book. I love that book. This one here. So if I can dig it out. Oh God. Yes. I've actually got another Julianne Peters book, which I didn't realize until a while ago, and that's Keeping You Secret. And I've obviously hung on to this book, and I'm really trying to remind myself. Now, it has been a while since I read this. So I'm I'm reading the back of it. Oh, okay. I think this is a bit like Enemies to Love. This is a love story. I do remember this being very hard-hitting in the sense that I believe one of the characters, so she's keeping the fact that she's gay, she has to keep it secret because, so in this one, it does have a lot to do with keeping your sexuality secret and what will happen if you tell your family and the consequences. And again, this is hard. So I feel like Julianne Peters romance writes YA, but she anything that I've read from her till now has been kind of hard hitting. And actually, I saw a few others that I thought were good, and I might read those and then do a author spotlight. But yeah, so this one is also is worth falling in love. You have to keep it a secret. So what I might do is actually reread this and then do a Julianne Peters spotlight. Let's do it that way. But yeah, so that's another one that I've obviously liked enough to hang on to. And now thinking about it, I did like that, and I do seem to really like her books. So there you go. So that's my 2-book review. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if you've read any other Julianne Peters books and what you thought of them. And I will speak to you all again very soon. Bye-bye.